Vanakkam. Hello, friends. In the previous episode on Know Your Roots, we saw how when a language develops, words to denote different objects evolve unconsciously without any reason whatsoever, the Iduguri pair. And then, as the language progresses, words compound, they take on suffixes and prefixes known as Karana pair. In his pre-Aryan Tamil culture, P.T. Srinivasa Iyengar describes how a language becomes conscious of itself for the first time when it comes in touch with a foreign language. Then it finds its soul, as it were, and becomes conscious of its structure. Then comes grammar. Building on the premise that Mother Tamil was born in this part of the subcontinent all those thousands of years ago, well, no theory to the contrary has been proven yet. Then her sons, our forefathers way back, would have gone upon the open seas and established trade connects with countries in the Fertile Crescent, for instance, and for the first time would have heard foreign languages. We saw how even around 3000 BCE, the people from the southern part of the continent had trade connects with the Sumerian civilization. And in one of the religious texts in praise of the Sumerian water god Enki, a name Magiram is used to describe the boats that were used to import a lot of goods from far off Meluha, that was India. And this Magiram, the root, is established as Manji in Tamil, which was a single masted large cargo ship capable of carrying about 10 to 40 tons of merchandise, which was probably built of wood and which would have carried wood as such. We saw the teak wood, the ahil, besides the pearls and the ivory that were exported in those days, and perhaps even sesame seeds. Why? Because in the Akkadian language, the Akkadian Empire itself succeeded the Sumerian Empire in the same Mesopotamia region. The word for sesame is yellu, which is the same as in Tamil as well. Not only that, there are also inscriptional evidences that show that the southern part of the Indian subcontinent had trade connects with the Egyptians from way back as 2600 BCE, again exporting wood, ivory and such luxuries. How do we know that? Through the inscription that is found in the 4th dynasty of the Egyptian ruler King Merner, where it shows how Arabians acted as the middlemen, the carriers. The boats from down south went up to the Red Sea, and from there these goods were picked up by the Arabians and taken to Egypt. So all this is very interesting, and we saw in a previous episode how linguists from David McAlpin to the Sri Lankan linguist Dr. Sadasivam worked on the premise that Proto-Elamite from around the Fertile Crescent and the Susa regions could be the mother language for the Dravidian language family itself. Even Dr. Caldwell, in his comparative grammar book published in 1856, hypothesizes that Elamite could be one of the connecting languages to the Dravidian group itself. Till date, linguists have rejected this theory, but what it does show is how language absorbs and assimilates words, and it is a two-way process. So then, as more and more words are assimilated, the need arises to rigidize the core structure of the mother language in order to maintain its originality, and in this case, even acting as a buttress against foreign languages that not only came and invaded these regions but permeated every aspect of our culture. Then, works of grammar must have been written, and from around 2000 to 1000 BCE, several such works should have been there. And how do we know this? The earliest extant Tamil grammatical work is Tolgapiyam. Tolgapiyam predates the Sangam literary works, and Tolgapiyam is one of the 4 oldest surviving works of grammar in any language in the world, the other three being Panini's Sanskrit grammar, which is dated to between 600 and 550 BCE, Varro's Latin grammar, that is dated to the 2nd century BCE, and Dionysius Thrax for Greek, which is dated between 2nd century BCE to 1st century CE. While scholars the world over who have had the fortune of studying the Tolkappiyam have praised its greatness, Dr. Alexander Dubiansky, the great Tamil scholar from Moscow State University, whom we recently lost to COVID, writes, "It is a literary and cultural monument of great importance," and notes how in over 150 places, Tolkappiyar offers and acknowledges his indebtedness to his predecessors, those who had written works of grammar from whom he refers, by quoting words such as Yenba, Moriba, Yenmanar, Pulavar, consisting of 1612 Nurpas, aphoristic verses, that are classified into 3 books, Eluthu, Sol, Porul. It covers all the subjects such as orthography, phonology, etymology, morphology, semantics, prosody, etc. And the 3rd book, which is Poruladhiharam, is something extremely unique and is found in the grammar of no other language in the world, where it details and documents the life of a people in the Tinai Kotpadu, the 2 divisions of which are Aham and Puram. Aham meaning to do with the inner self, inner life, love poetry, and Puram to do with the external self, the warriors, the chieftains being praised in heroic poems. And these diverse poems form the foundation for this 3rd book, brought to print for the first time in the year 1895 by the great Tamil scholar C.Y. Damodaran Pillai, one of the earliest to systematically hunt for long-lost manuscripts and publish them using modern tools of textual criticism. If the likes of C.Y. Damodaran Pillai and U.V. Saminatha Iyer undertook a great and daunting task in collecting and collating the various palm leaf manuscripts that were scattered around the Tamil country, we can only imagine the huge, daunting task that Tolkappiyar himself must have faced in having to collate information from hundreds and thousands of palm leaf manuscripts of various works of grammar that came before him. And not only works of grammar, but the Tolkappiyam runs through a gamut of subjects starting from Tamil music to drama to humanities to what is known as Marabiyal. It is simply mind-boggling. And Nurpa that goes, Nahaye Alugai, Iri Varal Marutkai, Acham Perumidam Vehuri Uvahai Endru, Appal Yettum Meipadu Enba. The 8 expressions that we show on our face, such as happiness, anger, surprise, the nuances that he has recorded in his work, the creative genius of Tolkappiyar has been appreciated by Dr. Alexander Dubiansky, who claims, while Panini's grammar is akin to a mission-generating Sanskrit, Tolkappiyar's grammar is more of a living creature, breathing and contemplating. Very true, since the relevance of this grammatical text to Tamil remains as much today as it did all those hundreds of years ago when it was composed. It is ironical that we do not know many details about the author himself, and the dating of this text, the Ur text, is mired in controversy, with different scholars giving different views. As early as 1925, the noted historian T.R. Sesha Iyengar was convinced that the Ur text was composed well before the 1st century BCE, while foreign scholars like the Czechoslovakian Zwelabel and the Japanese scholar Takanobu Takasashi were of the opinion that the text should have been composed in layers over a period of time. Airavadam Mahadevan, based on epigraphical evidence, was sure that the text must have been composed after 2nd century AD, based on one of the concepts, that is Pulliyal, the diacritic mark above the Meyeluthu, that is the consonant. It is very interesting to see how the commentators who came for Tolkappiyam, the first among them being Ilam Puranar, Sena Varayar, Nachinar Kiniyar, all came a good 1000 years after the original text was composed, and the interpretation of the Nurpas were colored by the perception and knowledge of the commentators. So we find that commentators who come still later, a good another 1,000 years later, offer their own interpretations. Like for example, for Pulliyal, Pavalar Balasundaram, one of the finest Tamil scholars of the 20th century who taught at the Karandai Tamil Kalluri, published the Tolkappia Aaraichi Kandihayurai, 5 volumes, in which for Pulli he gives the meaning Vosai. For example, one of the Tamil words to denote the bird is pull because of the sound that it makes. So Pulli means sound, and Vosayara Eluthu, a letter without any sound, is known as Mei the consonant, that is something like the body, and for it to get a sound, it has to be conjoined with a vowel, the Uyireluth. So that is what is meant here by Pulliyal and not the diacritic mark, he says. And the philosophical undertones of the way the Tamil language has been structured is in itself very mind-boggling, where the vowels are known as Uyireluth, Uyir meaning the soul, and the consonants are known as Mei Mei meaning body. The body is lifeless and has no sound unless it is conjoined with the soul. Today, based on the research of 20th century's contemporary scholars like those of the great Professor Ilakkuvanar, who gave the epithet Uyardhani Chemmoli, a higher and unique classical language to Tamil, and declared Tamil Pore Enadu Vaalkai, war for Tamil is the war of my life, the Central Institute of Classical Tamil has arrived at a date of 711 as the dating of Tolkappiyam. While the universality of Tolkappiyam is what makes it timeless, the way the work has been structured, it can be applied to any language in the world and not just Tamil. And this is what enamors scholars from Professor Lakwana to Dr. Dubiansky, who point out, for example, the very first Suthiram in the Solladhiharam, Ella Chollum Porul Kurittanave. All words are about a meaning. Now, this could be true of any language in the world, and in Urichol, which is indeclinable adjectives and adverbs, Kuriya Kilavi Porinile Alladu Veru Pira Thondrinum Avattodum Kozhale. The meaning of the words mentioned is not permanent. If other surrounding words appear, they take on a new meaning according to them. This refers to how the context depending on which words can be assigned different meanings. Poruttu porul theriyin adu varambindre. Very simple. Porul itself meaning. If the meaning of the meaning is understood, then this meaning has no limit. Porutku thiribillai unartha vallin. If one has the ability to explain properly, there is no deviation to be had from the right meaning. Dr. Dubiansky time and again marvels at the intelligent way in which Tolkappiyar has structured this timeless work. Scholars have also pointed out the discrepancies that are there between the rules of grammar as laid out in the Tolkappiyam and the rules of poetic convention that are followed in the Sangam literature itself. But this should not have any impact on its dating. On the contrary, it should rather aid in Tolkappiyam getting an earlier dating. Why? Sangam literature, based on a few epigraphical evidences which you have seen in an earlier episode, is given an earliest dating to 3rd century BCE. But we know that grammar follows literature. So Tolkappiyar must have composed his grammar based on literary works that were available way before his time. Those literary works that are totally lost to us, and their conventions is what he would have captured in his work of grammar, and not the conventions of a poetic system, the Sangam literature, that comes a few centuries after his work. The need of the hour is to undertake a multidisciplinary study of Tolkappiyam and approach it with more of a scientific bent of mind and strong research methodology, which would also help in gleaning enough information to establish the chronology. Today, the Ulaha Tolhappiya Mandram that was established in the year 2015 in Paris and has been opening branches in different parts of the world is doing excellent work in this direction, and a Canadian branch that was opened in the year 2016 had conducted a series of lectures, and I was simply blown away by a lecture that explored Tolgapiyam from the point of view of the medical field, more specifically anatomy and physiology. Dr. Mary Curie Paul, a young ENT specialist, took up and analyzed the first செய்யுள் of Pirappiyal. This is the Nurpa itself. உந்தி முதலா முந்து வழி தோன்றி தலையினும் மிடற்றினும் நெஞ்சினும் நிலையி பல்லும் இதழும் நாவும் மூக்கும் அன்னமும் உளப்பட என்முறை நிலையான். பல்லும் இதழும் நாவும் மூக்கும். Tolgapiyar describes how the different parts of the mouth, such as the teeth, the lips, the upper plate and the tongue, are used in creating the sounds to capture the vowels. Now this is something very basic, and the first two lines is what she has interpreted so beautifully. Undi mudala mundu vadi tondri. Vali means wind or air, and undi is normally meant to refer to the stomach, especially around the navel area. And Nachinar Kiniyar, this is how he interprets this. In our native tradition, there are supposed to be Dasavayu, 10 air systems in the body that have many functions, and one of this generates from the navel and comes up, and this is known as Udanan. So Nachinar Kiniyar writes, Undi Mudala Mundu Vali refers to this Udanan that comes from the navel region. And true to his commentary, all the scholars who follow in his wake give the same interpretation for this Nurpa. Here, Dr. Paul tends to differ and says, Undidal means to push. So what is the part in the stomach region that pushes? It is the thoracic diaphragm, which in Tamil is known as the Udaravidanam. Sometimes when we run very fast and we can't catch our breath, in Tamil we say, "Yen ipdi mel moochu keel moochu vaangudhu." So what is going up and down is this thoracic diaphragm. With every breath it does this a few times, and what it basically does is it pushes up the air. But what stuns the good doctor is the fact that as a part of anatomy, she quotes from ancient Greek and Egyptian medicine, where while talking about the parts of the stomach, the diaphragm is never mentioned, and it is for the first time recorded in modern anatomy only in the 16th century by the Finnish doctor Andreas Vesalius, who is known as the father of modern anatomy. So how did Tolgapiyar know about the function of the thoracic diaphragm all those hundreds of years ago is a question. Dr. Paul's explanation for the second line is even more interesting. Talayinum midattinum nenjinum nilayi. She opines that while the commentaries got it right in explaining the movement of air through the neck and the lungs, they didn't quite understand the relevance or importance that the head plays in speech. When you mention Talai, the head is not a solid object. If it were so, the neck wouldn't be able to support its weight. So what the head basically has is a lot of air sockets within, such as the sinus sockets below the eye. In Tamil, these are known as Elimbu Uttorai, that is basically a kaatarai. They are gaps of air, and these have many functions such as regulating temperature, and the most important of them is controlling vibrations that arise while speaking. Now, if we were to give a practical example, when we have a cold, the sinus fills with water and we know that the voice becomes nasal, and of course then we do our inhalation to bring out the water itself. So this importance of the air sockets in controlling the vibration that controls speech, how did Tolgapiyar know all this? How did he observe this and understand and grasp this and record this when he says Talayinum midattinum nenjinum nilayi? He realizes that in the order of importance, the head has to come first. So these are exciting times when more such interpretations are on the way to give us a better understanding of the intelligence of our ancestors. And if our ancestors came out of Africa all those years ago and settled in these regions, when did they start evolving into the Tamil civilization? We will see in the next episode. Vanakkam.